Welcome to On the Metal. I'm Bryan Cantrill. With me, as always, is Jess Frazelle. Hey, Jess.
Hey, Bryan.
And joining us is our boss, Steve Duck. Hey, Steve.
Glad to be here.
And that's it in the garage. We actually don't have a guest because we are at the end of season 1. This is it.
Yeah.
What a season, huh? That was amazing.
It was really good.
Okay, so I got to ask both of you. When we set out to go do this, and I think all three of us wanted to do the podcast. We thought it was going to be fun. Did you think it was going to be as good as it was? It was so good.
Definitely.
I definitely knew that a certain subset of people would like it, but then I think that it grew more than I thought it would. Honestly.
Yeah, I mean, you cannot argue that this thing did not beat your expectations.
No, I think the caliber of guests that we were able to get was mind-blowing.
It's mind-blowing.
Which was also fun because it was like during Raising, which is cool.
And I also thought the guests were so different. I mean, I loved that. And you would get a guest like, wow, this is going to be very different. And then it takes a delightful path. I just thought it was amazing.
And yet a bunch of common themes.
A bunch of common themes. A bunch of common themes. And especially, because Jess, you and I would do the show notes, which actually, man, for some of these guests, the show notes were a truck pull.
Yeah, no, there was, when I did the first one for Jeff Rothschild, like those show notes, I was like, it was multiple pages. And I was like, whoa, I had no idea. But also it lets you like listen to it over again with like a fine-tooth comb. So like I learned a lot again.
I learned a lot too. And I felt also there were a couple of things that came up a couple of times, technologies that came up a couple of times. And it was a ton of fun.
For what it's worth, I did volunteer to try and do show notes. And I think both of you were like,
yeah, it's okay. It's okay.
The explanation process is probably going to be longer than us doing it. Thanks.
No, it's true. But it was a lot of fun. The whole thing was a lot of fun. And there's going to be another season, right? This is not the last season of On the Metal.
No, definitely not.
So we're excited. We're going to keep doing it, but we are going to take a break for a little bit. And I think the three of us wanted to reflect a little bit on some of our favorite moments. We loved, I think, every conversation and loved so much about so many different conversations. But what each of the three of us has done, so we have written down 5 moments that spoke to us in some special way. And we actually don't know what we've said. So I know, Jess, you're very concerned that we were going to steal your favorite moment.
Yeah, so I would like to go first.
You get to go first.
Okay, because my favorite moment, I do not want to be stolen, and I feel like it might be on other people's list, but it was Amir's silicon wafers.
Oh, that was on my list. That was on my list, and I felt
so
like
good. That's why I wanted to go first. I was like, no.
that was on my list.
Bedroom decorations.
Okay, all right.
That was great.
That was on my list, and that's funny because I felt very confident that would be on no one else's list.
Excuse me. I thought about ordering some old silicon wafers for the office to hang from the ceiling.
Oh my
In
God,
fact,
we should do that.
Turn around, Bryan.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so that obviously that moment spoke to all three of us. Why did that moment speak to you so much, Jess?
The image of it, honestly. And I would love doing that.
It feels like, and I don't know, it was like the way he described it. So for those of you who may not have caught this moment, this is with Amir Michael describing hanging silicon wafers in his bedroom as a child, like a 5th grader. And just like the way he described it, I felt like I'm in the bedroom.
Totally.
It was so evocative. And there was so much. It's like I was a kid in Silicon Valley. I mean, it was so...
Why didn't I do that?
Right.
So good.
Right. Well, and actually, you're the anomaly, Stephen, that at least... Well, you grew up in the Bay Area, not really Silicon Valley, growing up in the East Bay. But for most of us who are out here, we did not grow up out here.
Yeah, that's true.
And Amir is unusual in that regard. He's a true child of Silicon Valley. I just thought that was a very evocative moment. So, yeah, Jess, you were right to fear it. Yeah.
That's my other ones I'm less fearful of. So.
God, I know. I am now terrified. I was convinced that none of mine were going to get stolen. And now, all right, Steve. What?
Probably should have written down more than 5. One of the, just right off the jump, the interview with Jeff Rothschild and hearing him describe his path into Intel was one that was just fascinating for me.
Oh my God, that was amazing.
And hearing about, one, how the memory manufacturing process, you've got a lot of defects that you can't use, how that got repackaged into a solid state product, and then that product being slower than fixed head disk, and this creating $1 billion issue for Intel. And at the time, he happens to be interviewing and confidently says, "Oh yeah, I can fix that," and then leaves and goes back to he's at Honeywell, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and goes back and then sees in like a published report that the person that he had interviewed with was saying, yes, we did have a supply issue. We've actually resolved it to the market. Basically, big market announcement. And that the resolution was that they had hired Jeff, and he didn't know it.
Right. He's like, oh, I guess they don't need me.
He's like, I guess I don't need to go back.
It's like, oh no, it's the exact opposite of that. Actually,
you're the fix.
Right, you're the fix, pal. Yeah, that story was amazing, and that's one of those where you want to have it almost videoed, not for the way he was telling it. Yes, but the three of us were legitimately slack-jawed.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, that was just like mouths agape, like, oh my God, it was amazing. So many of his stories.
And again, I mean, back to the common themes. It's like, in each one of these, there were so many chunks where we were just soaking it in. I mean, just hearing these stories that go back decades and that were how these companies were built.
And they were so personal too. I mean, I think that's what
I love about it.
That's what I think we all loved about it. I mean, it's like you're getting such who these folks actually are, which is great. All right, so mine. That actually, I was a little bit worried this one was going to get stolen in the first round. So I'm not sure how many people have this. Ron Minnich and Dr. Nim.
Oh,
that's on my list.
It's not on my list, but that's a good one that I forgot.
That's my number 3.
Right. Okay. So, and this is using kind of plastic tumblers effectively and marbles to emulate a computer. And based on this, and Steve, during the conversation, you're like, I got to go find one of these on eBay. And you can find one on eBay for a couple $100 or whatever, right?
Yeah. I've got 3 kids under 6. One who I thought maybe getting towards 6 might be appropriate for. Found it on eBay.
Right. Well, so you should, instead of getting that, you should buy this thing called Turing Tumble.
Well, I'm not buying that because it was $176.
Well, so Turing Tumble is a lot cheaper. It's like $70, and it is a modern example, but it's much more. It's elaborate. It's well thought out, and so I bought this for the kids for Christmas. Of course, I think I've probably been playing with it more than anyone else. Right. But it's been really interesting to watch. So I've got a 15-year-old, a 12-year-old, and a 7-year-old, and they all got into it to varying degrees, and it gets hard. It gets hard. And actually, it was like, I got one of the 4-star problems. And I'm like, okay, 4-star must be like the top. You go to the end, like, oh my God, there are 10-star problems in this thing. And it's good. I mean, it's like, it's not exactly, it's a computational thinking for sure. So Ron's story was very directly inspirational in that regard. But also, the way Ron was telling it was so captivating about, learning about, De Morgan's laws and so on as a kid. So I thought that was
because
great.
His dad didn't steal it. He was actually able to use his. I
hate him not stealing it from my. Well, okay, actually, this is where my kids would like to speak for themselves. And like, Dad, you actually did tell us to go do something else. Go play on my. And actually, you know what? Do you know what's pathetic? I actually want a phone. I want actually a mobile game version of Turing Tumble. Like they pride themselves on like, oh, this will get your kids off their phone. I'm like, actually, no, I want this on the phone so the kids will do this on their phone because it's that good. Anyway, really good stuff. So, but I thought
that was on my list,
and Ron was terrific. All right,
now I'm down to 4.
All right, yeah, exactly, Jess.
So this one's probably not on anyone else's list because it's something that we found out after an episode aired. So Kenneth was telling me that during Rick's episode where he's talking about how he scanned the internet for all the vulnerable VMCs, he did that from Kenneth's infrastructure.
Which is, it's such a great on the metal tie-in. Yeah, exactly.
Full circle. Because I love the interconnected worlds.
The interconnected worlds are great. And I thought, there's so much about Kenneth's story that really, I thought what was interesting is the degree that one really resonated with people listening to On the Metal.
Yeah, well, because it's like the Forrest Gump of like an internet exchange.
Okay, careful, because we're starting to like get into other ones that are picked.
Okay. Like Steve clearly getting fidgety, and Jess is going to inadvertently steal one of his.
Go watch myself.
Yeah, but that is amazing. So Rick was obviously aware of Kenneth's of the Fremont Internet Cabal, and it's great. All right, Steve, you want to get that one out there before it gets accidentally stolen?
Well, so yes, because it was Kenneth's where he was describing basically the DIY ASP, like do it yourself, create an ASP network, and just the way that he was describing putting this thing together in building blocks and how folks across the aisle from each other in racks were running cables illegally, and before you know it, with a low ASP number, he's created something that I personally. Thank you.
Yeah.
I personally had thought of as, being these very, very large companies with tons of infrastructure to be able to connect out in that way.
Can I tell you how hard I tried in doing the show notes for Kenneth? I wanted to find the architectural firm that was sitting on his ASN.
The low ASN.
God, because he just said it's an architectural firm. And I'm like, I got to know the story of this architectural firm. And I tried really hard to find the architectural firm sitting on that ASN, and I couldn't find it.
Wow.
And unfortunately, like, we know that they went out of business. But that's how Kenneth got the number, right? So it's like they're
Then
already...
you can't find it.
Yeah, it's actually already not... And they probably went out of business because probably they're like not a very good architectural firm. So it's like already like it was against me, and like I did not find it.
But learning the lengths people would go to save, $50 a month and bring a concrete drill into a data center to drill in from the floor above and run cabling.
That was another one of those that was just very evocative. I felt like I was in the data center.
Yeah.
And I loved Kenneth, like, you just got to like walk in with a hard hat and a clipboard and
just look like you're official.
Look like you're official.
So that'll get you anywhere.
Yeah, no, that was terrific. So another favorite moment of mine, so Steve, this is the one that you missed. You were out of town when, Tom Lyon.
That's so good.
And Tom talking about Datapoint, and he mentioned this company, Datapoint, and he recommended a book in particular. So a book we put in the show notes at the time, but Datapoint, The Lost Story of the Texans Who Invented the Personal Computer Revolution. I got the book and read it and really enjoyed it. I mean, it really interesting story about a company that had been forgotten about. And I thought, one of the things I love about Tom is that Tom also likes the history of the industry. And of course, because he's been in it for so much longer than we have, he's got this incredible depth of knowledge and interest. And he, after the podcast, he was showing us his manual collection, Jess, and that was just such a great day. It was so much fun and just delightful stories, and I just loved his interest in it because he has the belief that I think the three of us have, and I think our listeners have, which is that history has got a lot to teach us. That we're not just interested in this out of kind of an antiquarian fascination. It's because we see a lot of parallels with the present and future, and we think that there's really something to understanding this stuff. So I love that. I love Tom's description of Datapoint and ArcNet. And that was great.
I was bummed to miss that one, but also it was nice to be able to listen to one.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
And he was fascinating. And I mean, God, one of 9 kids?
That was another moment.
That family.
The family is so cool.
I know.
That family took over.
I know you think, and like this family should be, and he was talking about this family reunion.
Yeah.
And it's like the Computer History Museum should send a documentary crew
or just
to this family reunion.
Let them hold it there,
I guess, right. No, it was amazing. And then the optical mouse and the story was like, and you got, looks behind at the image of the optical mouse behind you in the garage. And like, it's like, it's that's that. Actually, the one my brother invented is actually the superior implementation of an optical mouse. It's like, where are we? No, it was amazing. That was such an, all right.
Okay, so my next one is also a kind of behind the scenes thing, but the 3-hour-long episode with Jonathan Blow, where like Steve had to leave in the middle for like a call, but came back, and then I had to like move a task rabbit that was supposed to assemble furniture because I was like, this is just getting good.
Over.
Oh, that was. And he was just gathering steam.
Like we could have gone on for so much longer.
So much longer.
It was freezing. My feet were frozen.
It is so cold in this garage. I also legitimately I'm going to miss my flight to New Zealand. We were going to New Zealand for the holidays. My wife's family's from New Zealand.
You couldn't even copy it. We had to hide the SD card because we were concerned that we would lose it.
Literally, I did not have time to copy the SD card. That's true. That if I copied the SD card, I was in danger of missing Christmas. That's what the stakes were, but that could have gone on. It felt like
I couldn't believe it. I had to go out for an interview and came back in 45 minutes later and we're still humming.
No, gathering strength.
Yeah.
It could have gone on so much longer.
It was like a hurricane that had crossed Florida into the Gulf of Mexico and just and all of a sudden picking up steam. Cat 5. Yeah. And it was amazing, I thought.
So
it was so good. And it seems like everyone seems to be loving the length.
Well, and so the first long one was Jeff Rothschild, because when we got into this, we thought these will be 30-minute conversations
during your commute,
but we kind of knew 30 minutes is going to be a bit short. And then we had Jeff Rothschild was the first one that there was no way we were going to cut him off. And
another one that could have gone 6 hours.
Could have gone 6 hours. And when we ended, he was like, wow, all right, are we already done? Like, God, we didn't want to like continue to like force you to, but
also, it's lunchtime.
And then we had kind of an extended discussion about like, do we do this in like 2 parts or do we do it as a 1-parter? And we decided like, you know what? People can hit the pause button if they don't want to.
Because it's like Netflix, the episodes don't have a set amount of time. You just go.
And it's like, we knew that we would not have wanted to be interrupted halfway through that.
Yeah.
So it's like, don't give me the first half without giving me the second half. So we decided to just let them go.
Long form.
That's good.
Long form. And Jonathan's was the ne plus ultra in that department. And it was good.
So good.
It was good. And at the end of it, I mean, it was kind of like, I felt like the 3 of us were, again, he was gathering strength while the 3 of us were like trying to hold on.
Well, my feet were literally frozen after that, like actually frozen.
It did take a couple of hours to get body temperature back up again.
Yeah. Right. And I did make my flight, but like not with a lot of margin. I don't regret having not copied it off the SD card. All right, Steve, what do you got? What's next?
I think one of the themes that was pretty interesting to hear was, I think everyone held this in common, but some people took it more seriously than others, is preservation of old hardware. So and it wasn't just, I can't throw out old hardware. It was I seek out and collect hardware until my where I live is brimming with things and causing family issues.
Right.
So in particular, I think Jon Masters had been holding on to hardware in his domicile until that was causing an issue, then had to get a storage locker, filled that thing to the brim.
Which he said on the podcast, like, I'm pretty sure my fiancée doesn't know about this. And I'm like, sure she does now. And did you see her tweet?
No.
Her tweet was like, I guess I learned there's a storage locker filled with hardware.
How many other storage lockers?
Great.
Yeah, it's like, oh, wow, okay. Sorry, we're not trying to create any domestic strife.
Oh, that's so good.
But then you also had Rick wanted to buy a Cray as furniture.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And I, looking that up, it's like that actually could serve as a couch.
Yeah, exactly.
And then obviously the Amir thing with the wafers on the wall.
Yeah.
There was just a lot of tie-in on incorporation of either storage of hardware or incorporation of hardware.
That kind of physicality.
Yeah.
Well, my next one actually dovetails very well with that, and that is Trammell and did I just steal one of yours?
No, I don't know.
Okay, so I'll keep it specific enough. I'm gonna walk a narrow line so I don't steal anything. But the Teletype 33.
Oh, that's fine.
All right, Teletype 33. Well, I thought his description of the Teletype 33, and I actually do want to expand this now, but I'm really going to steal it.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I'm not even in that genre.
Okay, well, the way he found that whole system on Craigslist, like, okay, but if you take this, you actually have to take all of it.
Right.
And he gets this, system that's in incredible working condition. And then the way he was describing the Teletype 33 and the fact that it was mechanically locked at this, what is effectively like 110 baud or whatever the rate was, very, very low rate. And then that dovetailed in with a couple of different conversations, but one dovetailed back to the Tom Lyon conversation where, Jess, we had this moment where you, Tom, and I were talking about white space, which I loved, and about like tabs versus spaces. And you realize, and I guess I just didn't realize this, that I've always been a hard tabs person, but I've never really made the efficiency argument over it. It's kind of ridiculous. But actually, with the Teletype 33, it's actually an efficiency argument. It's like, no, like, you don't understand. I'm saving a lot of time by like 8 spaces. Like, that's like 15 minutes, okay? So like that tab stop is a big deal, which I thought was really interesting. And just I feel the way Trammell described the Teletype 33, you could almost hear it. It was very visceral. And then the Teletype 33, which came up a couple of times in a couple of the different conversations, in the Datapoint's machine is the 3300 because it's 100 times better than the Teletype 33. They were originally, the Turbo Corporation. I'm like, and I just didn't know anything about the Teletype 33 before getting into these. So I thought that was really delightful and interesting. All right, so I did not take your Trammell related one.
Send it.
But I love this is another one of the like interconnected worlds of the people on the podcast, because there were things that came up multiple times. And so Ron and Trammell both overlapped at Sandia Labs and worked on firmware and clustering systems.
Yes.
And I just like love the 2 sides of that story are great. Like,
they are great. And I love having these people that know one another or have worked with one another or have crossed paths in their careers. I just thought that was so much fun. And I think, so many people that were on the podcast became fans of the podcast, which was really neat.
Cool. Because I don't think we really told people who else was on it. We were just we probably could have. We just it never came up.
Well, I remember Amir, who we had on early. I think he was maybe our third. When we were describing the podcast, he was like, "Oh, that sounds great! I want to listen to all of them right now." Well, you are all of them right now. So you're not.
You are the podcast.
You are the podcast.
We'll have you out there soon.
But no, that was great, and listening to that because they basically told Trammell and Ron told the same story.
Yeah.
But from different perspectives. Yeah. And they probably had not known that as they were. No, it's good.
But I just remember in the show notes, I was like, oh, wow, this is very similar.
This is very similar. All right. Exactly. Right. I did this 2 weeks ago. Yeah.
Well, on Amir, that was another one of mine. I first of all, just that was fascinating, just hearing kind of his story and how he kind of moved through building hardware, with corkboards and bread racks and DRAM swept off the floor that software would try and correct when it failed. And his background, and then kind of moving into this desire towards better efficiency in systems. And that kind of guiding a lot of his career and, starting OCP and, being one of the founding members of OCP. And what was really, really interesting was, a lot of folks, at least in the industry and the commercial world, are after performance and efficiency for commercial reasons. I want to deliver a faster system to customers, and I want to lower cost. And I think one of the kind of the core drivers for him that really resonated was how do we become more efficient in the planet? How do we actually reduce emissions? How do we start being less wasteful in terms of all these machines that are inefficient, underutilized, et cetera? And that kind of driving his startup and his passion and what he really cares about, less about the commercial implications of these things.
Yeah, and you could really tell that this is something he felt very
deeply,
earnestly.
personally.
Yeah, this is not something that he was doing for how you might perceive him or what have you.
Right.
This is something that he really felt, which I thought that was interesting because that was a bit surprising, I felt.
Yeah, well, you're used to the drivers being curiosity about something or a commercial interest.
And also because, power efficiency's got such a clear economic driver as well.
That's right.
It's very easy to just be doing it for business reasons. But yeah, he really wasn't. He was doing it for, and I thought similarly in terms of the driving of OCP being to share that innovation.
That's right.
With more people, so more people would adopt them, so we would have more efficient computing.
Yeah, and not have it locked up within a couple of very large providers.
Yeah.
That infrastructure privilege that Jess
right.
maybe didn't coin, but
I feel Jess definitely coined it.
I think so.
I think so.
I think we would only say maybe didn't because.
So I got to tell you, I was giving a talk last night at Stanford and mentioned infrastructure privilege and attributed it, and a Googler who was there got into giggle fits. He was laughing so hard over infrastructure privilege. And I'm like, hey, look, it's the rest of us are actually living in a slum over here. It's right. Don't hurt yourself laughing with the infrastructure privilege.
Can you go out in the hallway and do that?
Can you exactly? You may want to I think Jess definitely coined infrastructure privilege.
I'm going with it. I think so.
So I had another favorite moment just because it took me back to a particular time and place when Jonathan Blow was describing porting Doom to the SGI set-top box. And, it's one of those things that it wasn't, and I think even for Jonathan, it was not a central thing. But because I had done the same thing, I ported Doom to this other operating system at the same time, it just immediately transported me back to the mid 90s and that project too, which was a technically interesting and a very ahead of its time project, but ultimately didn't succeed as originally envisioned. And I remember thinking that the whole idea of video on demand felt ludicrous and impossible because of the last mile problem. And yet that ultimately, we obviously all have video on demand. And so anyway, Jonathan's description of that and working on that project and, the engineers leaving to go to NVIDIA and kind of being in free fall, and then going and starting a game company at the worst time to start a game company. I just thought, again, very evocative and taking you right back to a time.
We've all played games, and that he's been involved in some way, shape, and form, and everything he's touched your life at some point.
Well, and I'm actually kind of amazed in retrospect that because Jess played the Witness.
Yes, I
Right.
played
It
The
won-
Witness, and I
won The
have
Witness.
like no. So The Witness, like it is like it's something where I play video games very fast, basically to get to the end because I'm like I just want to like play the game. And like one thing that I definitely like wish I would have brought up, but I just didn't, is that like since I do that, like I don't enjoy the game while I'm playing it. It's way too competitive. So then like his game,
That's just to get
Like,
to the last
yeah.
chapter.
It's like, yeah,
So, like,
somehow
you
I can't
unlock-
envision that. Oh, no, I can't envision that.
yeah, you unlock all these things along the way, and I'm like, okay, it's fine. Like I'll go back when I'm done and like go check out all the worlds and stuff. And so then when you're done with the game, it pops you back to the beginning.
And so you weren't able to
I
go.
couldn't go back. Like I'd have to play the whole game again.
Oh, you would have had to have enjoyed it along the way.
Well, but the other thing you can
I would have had to enjoy it along the way.
Sounds awful.
Which I think there's a hidden lesson there.
Maybe.
well, it's the other thing about it. This game is it's not really. I don't think it's really an Easter egg, right? The videos that are in it.
Definitely not an Easter egg. Like you're supposed to kind of collect all these like little puzzles, but it's definitely not part of winning. Like you don't have to collect all these like little puzzles to unlock the YouTube
Right.
videos to win. But like once you get one, you're like, oh shit, I gotta get like all the others.
But suffice it to say, these videos rocked Jess's boat a little bit.
So like because I play video games so fast, like I am very much like in the game. Like
Right.
I am like you have to like tear me away. This is also why I didn't bring all this up because it's like okay, it comes off a little crazy. So like the video, like the YouTubes, like some of them are related and some of them are like physics professors and stuff like that. And like
like Richard Feynman
Yeah.
is in one of the videos.
and then there's like most of them are physics related, honestly. And then there's a couple like just curveballs in there that are just so weird that you want to tie it all together, and like it creates a weird thing when you do that.
I mean, so you were having me watch these videos. It must have been after the conversation with Jon.
It was definitely after because I was
would've
like, I
brought
don't
this
know
up.
if I should bring it up or not.
Right, and then so you were showing it to me, and I'm like, God, yeah, these videos. And then, but it was clear these videos were transporting you back to a time and place. Namely, we play this game, and you're just like, what does the video mean?
Yeah.
What does it mean? It means something, but I don't understand. It's like,
Even the guy in the YouTube comments was like, "What do these videos mean?" And I'm like, "That is me." That is
right,
me.
and some of them, because the other problem is like some of them have a clear meaning. So now
Yeah.
then you want to get clear meaning out of all of them. One of the things that's interesting is one of those videos is by Bryan Moriarty, who was the Infocom, who did Trinity, the game that he mentioned, the Infocom game that he mentioned. So it was all as I was like doing the show notes,
Yeah.
and I'm like, ooh, this is one of the videos. Like, ooh, should I bring this up with Jess? Like, bit of a
That
landmine,
actually
maybe.
makes sense, though.
Right,
that
it does
makes
make
sense.
sense. It does make sense.
So it's just the one with the candle that makes no sense.
In your defense, the one with the candle really does not make sense.
makes
it's
no
it's like a
sense.
Polish art film or something.
I think
don't even.
that one's thrown in there just to mess with people. I don't know. Maybe.
Especially people
and-
playing the game fast.
I mean, if that was its intent, like mission
I mean,
accomplished.
it really did.
because,
Like, it really
I
did.
mean, you almost wonder if you brought it up with Jonathan. Jonathan, like, God, I kind of overshot the mark on
played
this
that.
one. I mean, like,
I've been waiting for someone to bring that
like,
one up.
I was trying to like mess with you, not screw you up. But I think I may have no. But I'm amazed in hindsight that you did not actually.
I was thinking about it a lot though, but then I did imagine him like going back to his like office and being like, "You will not believe what this girl on the podcast said about the videos." Like,
Right. Yeah, I don't think, and I was just impressed that because underneath your relative still waters during the conversation must have just been this like
the candle.
the candle. What is going on to the candle?
Yeah.
But it was amazing. Now, Jess, have we exhausted your list?
No, I have one more.
Okay, go for it.
Okay, so my last one is during Jon Masters when we were all reminiscing about where we were during Spectre and Meltdown.
Yeah.
Which like is crazy.
Yeah.
Because it was such a huge thing. And it was funny to see like everyone else, because I thought I was like freaking out like where I was, but like everyone else was freaking out where they were.
Yeah. That was funny. And I loved your story too about like your sister is going like shopping for her wedding dress and you're like, oh my God.
Do you not appreciate what's happening right now?
It's like the world is ending.
Look at my phone.
And I can just envision her be like, can I not have my day? Like, why must it always be about you? And you're like, no, this is
Sunset
like
crisis. Yeah.
All of the computers everywhere are broken. I was like freaking out.
Right. No, I felt like I definitely, and I remember so clear where I was.
God.
Yeah. What a mess. But
Yeah, that was not a good day to be in the cloud provider business.
it was not a good day. It was not a good. That was not a good week.
It's like, wait, do we run a multi-tenant service?
Right, exactly. It was not a good month. It was not a good event. No, that was fun, and especially because recall for Jon Masters, one of our founding engineers, Robert Mustaki, was here, like watching the podcast live, and Robert was the one who implemented kernel page table isolation for us while we were exposed. So Robert Mustaki and Alex Wilson were actually having to do brain surgery while we were exposed. So that was, I know it's evocative for him as well, for sure. That was just amazing. And all the stories of the vulnerabilities were amazing. And yeah, exactly. It takes us back. I
was like back there with my sister trying on wedding dresses and her being like, what the fuck?
Right. Must it be about you? It's like, it's not about me. It's the world. It's humanity. Steve, any more on your list?
It was actually, that was kind of a partial mine. It was around the vulnerabilities stories from Jon Masters and then the naming of them and kind of how the names
branding
were derived and the branding and all that. It was just hearing all the terrifying stories of vulnerabilities out there. Very interesting in that one.
So my last one, I mean, I've just got a lot. But Rick, I loved Rick when we were talking about Windows NT back in the day. And he was able to recall that NT ran on MIPS by bringing up the folder in his brain. You could see he was visualizing the folder of the drive. He's like, and as he's like, it was on Alpha, and then it was on, because I just feel like that Windows NT ran on MIPS is a fact not many people know or would retain. And again, very evocative for me because I had the top 10 reasons to run NT on MIPS, but it was just amazing, I thought.
There's a whole Wikipedia page I found, I think, on Windows NT on MIPS. Or there is a specific website on it because I linked to it in the show notes and I was like, this was a thing.
Well, and I think one of the things I really appreciated actually in this whole exercise is Wikipedia. Because Jess, you and I went to Wikipedia all the time for the show notes.
There's good stuff on there.
There is good stuff on there. And so many of these things are, these relatively very obscure artifacts have got actually really good Wikipedia pages.
Plus, like the other thing that I found through doing the show notes is it's not just the Wikipedia page that's great. There's like this references thing at the bottom. And like if you click through those, then you find out way more information.
Yeah, way more information.
See, I could have done the show notes with Wikipedia.
I think it's,
all right.
I think
I'm taking one on at some point.
Oh, God.
Come on. I thought next season's pop culture, right?
Yeah, exactly. So any lowlights?
No,
any lowlights. Yeah. I can't not talk about it.
What?
the bumpkin that gave us the 3-star review.
Oh, come on. We were going to talk about this.
We had to hear all 5-star reviews. There's only one 3-star review.
God.
Come on. No. Here.
Okay.
No, get it back on track. I thought you were going to say like, and Steve said, know the difference between instruction and instruction set.
No. I was trying to set myself up. I just want to get it out of myself. All right. Let me just get it out of here. We'll be done. Okay. So first of all, the podcast is great. And one of these reviews, and the reviews are all basically like, I love this podcast. Of course, like who wouldn't? And also, like, I feel like we don't ask people to leave reviews. Like, leave a review if you want to leave a review. I mean, people should be free to do what they want. Except for the person who said, like, I really like the podcast. But, Bryan should be, like, asking Jess less frequently if she's ever heard of something. Like, that's getting a little old. That's my recommendation. 3 stars. And first of all, Jess thought it was, like, hilarious. I'm like, this is not hilarious. This is not hilarious at all. Because one, I don't agree. I mean, Jess, I'm what, 16 years older than you? It's not an unreasonable question. And like on BBSs, okay, like BBS, the last BBS was shut off when you were in utero. I'm convinced.
I only know BBSs through like internet culture history.
Right, exactly. Like this is not an unreasonable question if you've heard of a BBS. Like I don't feel like I'm being, so I feel like I felt obviously very defensive. And then I feel like, and we're getting 2 stars lopped off for that? We could lose 2 stars because I'm asking if Jeff's ever heard of a BBS.
Could have been 3.
It could have been 3. I know, that's what you're saying. I know. I just need to be like.
Only knocked off 2.
Like, why am I reading the comments?
Why are you in the comments section?
Because
no. Actually, in fairness, the comments were great. And
you didn't read the comments. I read them, and then I posted it because I was laughing so hard. Which is all my fault. It's all my fault.
Technically, you did actually send me that comment. Yeah, that's true. That's true. But also because the comments have been so positive, just because it has been so positive. It's been so great. Yeah. It's been. So much fun.
Super grateful at everyone who takes the time to listen to the long form podcast and giving feedback. It was great.
And the ad.
We got to talk about the ad.
We do have to talk about the ad. We had, obviously and understandably, listening to those same 3 ads again and again and again would be grating for anybody.
Hey, better than the ads we didn't run. When we recorded those ads, let's just say we had some experiments.
Oh, God, there were some bad ones.
There were some stinkers in there.
There were some really bad ones.
You don't know how good
but
you
I
had
bet they would have appreciated us rolling out the throwouts just to mix things up.
Just doing the rejects.
Maybe not.
It was the fact that they're just listening to the same ads all the time.
Repetition.
And what I love the fact is people are not even don't run the ads or don't run the ads for Oxide. They're just can you just run different ads for Oxide?
You advertise differently.
Right.
So one listener, as we said in the ad, just did unsolicited send us an email and said, look, I have only been a taker of the podcast this entire time. I've given nothing. So I felt like I should give you something. The repetitive ads are killing me. So I've recorded my own ad for you that you're free to use if you'd like.
And so obviously Steve and I were delighted by this. The Jonathan Blow episode was the next episode up. So
Yeah.
this is on Friday. This is last Friday because this is Jonathan's episode was going on Monday. Jess, you were out of town.
Yeah.
And we're like, Steve and I, we obviously have to get ads cut around this. We got to go to the garage now. And then there was this moment of we can get the power on. But fortunately,
No, but this is where me IoTing absolutely everything
It was the
comes
win.
in hand.
I know, but let's just say
happy.
that the IoT came through because the power doesn't work
without it. Well,
Okay, that's fair,
Steve's got a point. He's got a point. Steve does have a point.
But yes, when the power does not work,
Right.
it is nice to have someone in another state be able to turn it on.
But I was able to DM you in another state, and you were able to turn the power on, which was pretty great. It was pretty great.
It was great.
And truthfully, Steve's caveat didn't even occur to me. But right, of course, if there was just a power switch, we would have had to. But it was fine. It was great. It worked, and we got it recorded. But that was a lot of fun. I mean, how great is it to have? And I think that Chris at HumblePod, our producer, I think it's fair to say he had never quite seen that one before. He had never seen a listener offer up their own ad.
Please, anything.
So
else.
awesome.
Anything like that.
We'll take ads in the interim if we're waiting.
And we totally appreciate you. You, the listeners. It has been so much fun for us.
Yeah.
We have had so many conversations with people who have listened to the podcast, for whom it's been meaningful. We've had people who've been in the industry a long time, for whom they've reminisced. What I've loved is some of the younger folks who've listened to the podcast and realized, oh, wow, there's a whole world down there that I wasn't aware of, which was kind of the point. I mean, at some level, it was really not to reminisce so much as it is to talk about this area of engineering that's still very active and interesting and has lots of hard problems.
But I think to the credit of the folks that were on, I mean, the descriptions of the lower levels of the stack, the descriptions of some of these hard technology problems were told in such a way that were very, very interesting, historical and then relevant to a lot of the things that we're doing today.
Yeah.
And just captivating. I mean, it was really, really interesting.
Captivating and deeply personal, as you said, Jess, at the beginning. We love stories,
great. Yeah.
and that's what it's about.
And I think a lot of that just happened because we went into it with there was no season before this, so it was everyone was just so what do I talk about? And we're let's just start with everything.
Let's just go. Which we should also say,
the first intro,
where I was I handed it over to Jess to make the intro, and Jeff's we have, I think it was Rick. I almost said Rick. And it was either Rick or Jeff. We were just we have.
No, it was Jeff.
It was Jeff. I think it was
Jeff.
And it's
and we have Jeff here.
Jess is going to intro who we have got in the garage.
So
we have Jeff Rothschild here.
So here's the thing. I actually put a lot of thought into that though behind the scenes because I was well, maybe he doesn't want to be introed as the thing that everyone knows him for. Maybe he wants to be known for something else. So I was maybe I'll just let him intro himself.
That.
And then
Well, and also, I mean, it should be said that we were all three of us are a bit starstruck by Jeff. And I mean, he's had such an interesting career and been so many different interesting places. And so you don't want to intro him in a way that he doesn't, he would like.
Right?
So then I was oh crap.
Smart. So it was okay, back to me. So, and then I think we just decided that's the way we intro people around here. We just give your name.
We didn't put him in a box. We didn't put him in a box.
We didn't put him in a box. No, it was great. And it was fun. And it was so much fun. We loved it. So season 2, is coming.
Yeah.
And we're excited that you all, the listeners, are excited. So stay tuned, right?
Stay tuned.
All right, thanks. And hey, don't forget, head on over to oxide.computer and join our mailing list. Thanks. Stay tuned, everyone. See you in season 2.
See ya.
You've been listening to On the Metal, Tales from the Hardware Software Interface. For show notes, to learn more about our guests, or to sign up for our mailing list, visit us at onthemetal.fm. On the Metal is a production of Oxide Computer Company and is recorded in the Oxide Garage in Oakland, California. To learn more about Oxide, visit us at oxide.computer. On the Metal is hosted by me, Bryan Cantrill, along with Jess Frazelle, and we are frequently joined by our boss, Steve Tuck. Our original and awesome theme music is by JJ Wiesler at Pollen Music Group. You can learn more about JJ and Pollen at pollenmusicgroup.com. We are edited and produced by Chris Hill and his crew at HumblePod. From Jess, from Steve, from me, and from all of us at Oxide Computer Company, thanks for listening to On the Metal.